had a discussion with women.
Yes.
Maybe in summary, can you share what you shared with them?
All right. So as a mother to a child with autism, what I feel God's asked me to do is to share my story. So a lot of people don't know this, but my son's condition was actually thrown on social media way before, people started talking and discussing about autism. So if you can imagine, I already had so much public scrutiny. It was a bespoke condition that no one understood, and the evidence was there. My son was not talking, and there was, behavioral issues. He was getting kicked out of school and all those things. But I took 2 years out of my life to correct my son's condition, and my son got better. And now when you see him, he's talking, he's in school, he's with his age mates. And to be honest with you, I remember I had a covenant with God where I said, God, if you've chosen to make my son's journey so public, reward me at the end. And to be honest with you, God did that. But the covenant was that I had to speak and share. So you see me here today speaking at this function. I've done so many seminars. I've done so many small kind of group settings with moms, with maids, with grandmothers, with men even. Just trying to spread the word of the condition, trying to desensitize people's, anxiety and, skepticism around the condition. It unfortunately is growing, and we don't know why. It could be environmental issues, it could be social issues. We don't know why it's on the rise. So I've done that using mainly social media, talking about it, highlighting it, also sharing my kids' journeys, and also directing people to therapists, whether it's occupational or speech therapists who I think can help the condition, and also speaking about alternative solutions, because I know not everyone has the money. And it's very easy to look at someone like me and say, but the money was this, like in your situation it was easier. But my main message is actually to say, it's about the environment you create for one at home, it's about the routines, it's about the systems, it's about the people. Because you can cure this, and that's why, you came a bit late, but that's why I used the example of this gentleman from Chitunguza, who reached out to me. He'd been left with his daughter. The mom was a sex worker, and the daughter had never been to school, and she was 5. And I remember we went for lunch, and I told him, I'll help you on one condition, that one now you get put into a school that will allow her to come into the school. And I organized for him to see my son's occupational therapist. And I specifically gave orders to say, let's create and concoct a system, surrounding the maid and what he does have at his disposal. And I gave the testimony that after 8 months, he was sending me videos of his daughter singing nursery rhymes. She was now in school, around the house and things like that. So I've seen it. The unfortunate thing is when you're already at the end or closer to the end, it's easy to see the result is you can get it. It's within reach. That's why a lot of these women are also saying right now there's nothing someone can say that's going to be an instant solution. But all we can say is continue.
Amazing. And with all that you have shared, why do you think it's important for the women to have such gatherings where they share experiences?
I think it's important because when my son had his diagnosis, there was no way to get information. There was absolutely no way. What happens is we're people, so experience really becomes almost like the remedy. Because what maybe you did at your house, is exactly the solution I'm looking for, but it's not in a textbook, it's not in a video clip,
it's not captured anywhere.
It's not captured anywhere. In occupation, I remember there was this one lady who, we had a gathering at my mom's house. We invited moms and their maids and their kids. And potty training, small life instances like potty training can become a nightmare to mothers who have kids on the spectrum. And one mom just literally said, I use cold water. If the child wets the bed, I bath them with cold water. So Mwana by himself conditions himself to say, oh no, I've done this action and this action has this reaction. And funny enough, another mom messaged a couple of months later saying, but it helps.
It actually works.
Yes, because potty training, even to normal kids, think about how many different ways people teach their kids to potty train. So just word of mouth and sharing, what might have worked at your house, definitely, who's to say it won't work for me? And there's no money involved. It's just words. It's words and experience. And as people, that's what we have. That's what actually creates a community, right? So that's why I think gatherings and functions like this are so important, because you'll be thinking, I need thousands and thousands of dollars. But no, someone else with cold water, it
works. All right. And then from your experience and exposure, what do you think needs to be done from a policy perspective? In terms of
policy. We need people to think about our future. And why I say that is these same kids, some of them aren't dramatic or drastic on the spectrum, but they end up being the next leaders, the next managers, your next boss. Sometimes you'll be at work, you don't understand why is this individual so hard to work with or to work for. You know what I mean? So right now, because they're kids, we think it'll correct itself. But these then are the same conditions that manifest into difficult marriages with difficult people, difficult relationships, difficult bosses, my psychopaths, my sociopaths. You understand? So our country needs to really care about the future Pemtanga, to say these are our people and the people need help. There are kids in classes right now who are struggling to cope, to just stay however many hours are needed in that classroom. They're not getting the help that they need. But these are the next generation of people, whether be it mothers, fathers, pastors, these are the same people. We need that investment in human capital.
Yeah.
So from a policy setting, we need one. It needs to be recognized. There are conditions like this out there. There is no unifying bodies and boards typically overseeing these issues, to be honest with you. People don't know where to go to get information. It's scattered. It's wakangon's walk and say, why don't you try this on Ningi? It's through word of mouth. But there should be clinics, there should be hospitals, there should be websites. People should be able to just Google, where do I go for this? And people have that. And it should also be subsidized.
Yeah.
Not everyone can afford the therapies. Not everyone can afford all the different remedies. And it's a condition that no one has asked for. We still don't know what triggers it or what sets certain people apart. But once you have it, like what about all the kids that Rumamisha? Is just a write-off.
Yeah.
But we've written off a whole destiny that we don't know what had God willed for that person. What if in the 13th year of their life, they were going to start talking and then become maybe the next King David? We don't know. So we need more bodies, more boards. We need more schools to be forced to weed out kids that are having issues, and also to include kids that are maybe on the cusp, or maybe kids that can be included. Because what happens with even a lot of these schools, it's just an automatic write-off. Wakatongonyoro should be honest on an application to be like, no, my son has this condition. It's an automatic, hey, we can't. Why are our schools already at capacity? And the thing is, if we don't get in front of the education behind it, you'll end up having so many small pop-up schools, but they're not really regulated. No one's really understanding what are these little kids being taught, and is it what we want as a nation? We have Cambridge, we have certain institutions. We need to make sure that everyone is getting the same education that we are happy and proud of, and is going to work towards our future. I might not know the technical language, but that's the vision that we need.
I get it. And then in conclusion, your words of encouragement to
the moms,
mothers, parents,
It's going to be a long road, and unfortunately, it's not a timed road. You can't say if you invest 2 years, you get your solution. We can't do that. But my only encouragement to a lot of the moms are, the work you put in now is what's going to determine your life in maybe 5 or 10 years from now. So I gave the example of having maybe, a 6-foot, 14 or 15-year-old boy who can't go to the toilet, who can't speak for himself, who can't do anything for himself. That doesn't enrich my life as a mother. It makes me have to stay at home more. It makes me have to monitor this kid more, right? So the work we put in now makes our life better. So I encourage moms now to sacrifice. It's not easy. It's not what we would want to do. But if the means and the way is there to create a system that helps deal with these issues whilst these kids are young, because a lot of doctors are saying if we catch this condition earlier on, we can change it. If we keep on, if we're paying attention, if the schools and the creches and the data are also helping us to identify these issues, and when I get on a program or a routine early enough in their path, we can change that outcome. So we need that. We need parents, unfortunately. We need peace in the homes. Because when there's peace in the homes, you can, your kids, you can pay more attention to your kids. We just need a peaceful environment, a conducive environment. We do.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
We are learning as we engage.
No,
thank you.